So how many of you, so we just had our Study Island 101. Some of you are saying, a lot happening. How many, so has everybody that is in this session, this is supposed to be the advanced session, has everybody used Study Island before? Lovely. Lovely. Okay. So, for everybody that was here earlier, apologize, you're going to hear a lot of the same thing. My name is Jackie Weber. Just the introduction part. My name is Jackie Weber, and I live in Frankfort, Indiana. I am a former special education teacher, also former high school assistant principal. And I've been working with Edmentum for 3 or so years. And we're going to talk about Study Island. Hopefully everybody's in the right spot. Tell me how you have been using Study Island so far. Just kind of blurt it out to me.
I created like a writing prompt and stuff and had to write during when we were at the library.
Okay, writing.
And then I assigned the test, like they can practice the pre-test and do the other. I did have a little trouble assigning new kids because they were attached to the school, but they would not let them attached to me. And I actually had to create a separate new kid list. Just for more information.
Huh, okay. All right. For writing,
Math and reading.
after you
Pre-test and stuff.
okay. So are you creating them their
No, I would
assignment?
just choose their pre-test if they already ready made.
Okay,
I don't have that kind of time to make these things.
sure. Got it. I-step prep. Did you create an assignment? Okay. So when I said create an assignment, that is just creating a class and an assignment and then going that way. Yep, assigning them to the student. You're saying that you said, I want you to go into, what grade level are you?
I was,
Okay, I want you to go into 3rd grade content and I want you to do the pre-test.
you have to actually assign the test to them and they open
Okay. So you did create a class. Okay, got it. Did everybody do it that way? Everybody created a class? Everybody put their kids in there? You gave them something. Okay. Did you use Sensei?
A little bit.
A little bit?
I mean, to see data and stuff, it was nice. But, like, if you have to assign a kid an individual assessment, or, they need help here. So you want to assign a kid an individual assignment, you still need to create that assignment for that individual kid, correct?
You do. Kind of. Yes. Okay, so I just want to back up just so we all have a good understanding of what Study Island is and how we can use it. So you already got this morning. I don't have my little, hold on. I don't know what I did with mine. Anyway. Study Island is that formative assessment tool. So you teach something, hopefully, and then you can assign this content to them. And they're called topics. Students can go on Study Island on their own. Did any of you use it with the NWA integration piece?
Yes.
Okay. What grade levels are we? Kindergarten?
Third.
Okay. The NWA integration piece already is integrated in with Study Island from when the students take the NWA test. Then it's going to create a learning path. Right now it is only from grades 3 through 8. It will be grades K through at least 11. Hopefully this summer. So that's one thing that you can do. You can have your students go through on that learning path, and it's going to pull in 2nd grade content, 3rd grade content, wherever they are. It should pull below and above their grade level. So that's one thing that you can do with Study Island. The other thing is that if I wanted, I could just say I want my students to go in, select 5th grade content on the left-hand side of their screen, and say I want you to start out doing the pre-test, and then they can start going in and going through the order, or you can start selecting what you want them to do. So they could go in on their own. The other way is, and we have found this to be the most effective, is that you will create the class, put students in the class, create the assignment, and when you create the assignment, you're selecting the actual topics. They have the lesson that comes with it. There might be flashcards that are there as well that they can use. They're trying to get 70% or at least to earn that blue ribbon within Study Island. If they don't earn that 70%, then it will automatically push them back a skill set, sometimes 2 or 3 skill sets, to give them the foundation that they need. It's an automatic built-in building blocks for intervention piece that's already in Study Island, and it will assign them what they need. They have to get the 70%, they're earning a white ribbon in that building block category, and then they can go back into the content that they were already working on. Have we seen blue ribbons when students are working? Okay. 70%. Now we know they are getting the blue ribbons to get 70%. Okay. So what I was thinking, and you guys tell me what you're hoping to get out of here, is to really understand Sensei. If you've been using Study Island, and to use Sensei, you have to create a class and assignment. That's going to start bringing in the data of Sensei. After you've created your class and assignment, you can even assign content from Sensei. You don't always have to go in and create an assignment and title it and select my kids and all of that. You can do it from Sensei. I want to make sure that we understand reports. Have any of you created a test? Anyone? Okay. The test feature. So Study Island, when you're working with Study Island topics, and I assign it, or a student is working with that, it's pulling from a bank of questions. That bank of questions, they have to select 10, and they do 10. If I'm working by somebody else in my classroom, they're not going to see the exact same 10 questions. If I stop and I go back in, they're not going to be the exact same 10 questions. It's pulling from a bank. If I build a test, I go in and I can select the exact question that I want. If I'm a 3rd grade teacher and we're working on formative assessment tools, then we can have one test. We are working on it. We have one test, and we can share it out, and then all of our 3rd grade students would be able to have the same test. Or if I just want to create one myself and not share it out, it might be my 3rd week assessment that I've created. These are the topics that we've covered. I want to see how well my students are understanding it, that formative assessment piece, informing you on what you need to go back and reteach, or who you can push forward. So when you build a test, you're selecting that content, those questions. You can even go in and select from our, we're getting more. I think at least right now there's at least 9. We're going to have about 15 different types of questions. From drag and drop, from your choose all that apply. What else is there? Graphic gap match. I don't even know what that is, but we have it. There's going to be one where there's even a video. I think the state is coming out with something new where there's a video and they have to watch the video, and we're going to have that too. We're trying to mimic the state assessments. I think we have the blueprint now for Indiana, so it's coming. But that's Study Island. It's really a test prep, formative assessment tool for you to use to help you gauge where your students are. So does that sound okay? How many of you use group sessions? Okay. So do we at least feel comfortable enough with what Study Island is? and how to create that class and all of that. So if we go in and we look at Sensei, run some reports, look at how to create a test and no group sessions, does that feel like that's going to give you your advanced knowledge?
I've never, when she talked about creating a writing assignment, I've never done any of that.
Okay, so we will do that as well. We can do that.
What I'm worried about is my students don't have enough experience word processing, that this year they're supposed to do everything
Right.
on the computer. So I need my kids having experience writing essays.
Absolutely.
You know, just doing that writing prompt on the computer. My kids don't have that kind of experience.
Yep. So my daughter's your typical LD kid, awesome in math. You don't know where she got it, not this. Awesome in math, awful in your language arts. For her to get a thought from here just on paper is awful. It is such a struggle for her. She can verbally tell you the best stories. She can illustrate. I think she's going to be an illustrator somewhere. But she cannot write that down. So then, of course, Indiana, and we didn't prep them for that, we're going in and we're going to tell them that they have to take the test on the computer. Did not do well. So this year I had her go in. She loves the fact that I work at Edmentum. Frankfurt doesn't have these the tools yet, the products. So I had her start working in Study Island just so she can start, because there's prompts already in there. There's prompts, I didn't put any in there because I didn't have time to deal with her. But I gave her some prompts, and then I also used Play-Doh, another product that you guys have, that we have. And I had her do 10th grade, because this was her big year, 10th grade. They get tested at the wazoo in 10th grade. And so I had her do the 10th grade ECA prep on that, and that pulls the learning path. So she had that exposure, and she passed.
Good for her.
And for her to pass, good Lord. So it's doable. But giving them that exposure is huge. Even if it's just, okay, let's start out looking at, it's up on the board. You know, getting them used to seeing that. Then it's up on the board, let's show you how you're going to come in here. Gives her skills. They didn't teach them typing like they did with us, you know. And so they're going to be hunting, pecking, and they're used to having their phones. So they just need that exposure because it throws them. Okay, did everybody sign this? Here we go, moving up. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you Sensei and get you good exposure to Sensei and what that means and what you can do with it. So when you get logged in, does everybody have data when they go to Sensei? So Sensei is what you're going to click on in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. If you've never logged into Sensei before, it's going to ask you what program, and the program is going to be the grade, and then it's going to ask you your class name. And you can always switch. If you have other classes up here, you can switch between programs and different classes, but it's going to ask you what one do you want to have as your default. So does everybody have at least something when they go there? Yeah. Okay. There's a quick guide over here on the left. If you click on quick guide, it will tell you what all of those color codings mean. On mine, I can see, let's see if I can make this bigger. There we go. On mine, I can see that I have some green with a star in it. And what that means is for the first two boxes there, I know that that's the pretest, and I know that that is the diagnostic. So that tells me that all of my students have completed that pretest and diagnostic assessment. Later on down, I can see that I have a couple with green and a gold star, and that tells me that all of my students in my class have 70%. They all earned a blue ribbon. That's my goal. If I just see green in there, then I know that the majority of my students are doing well. I need to probably go in and check on a few others. Blue, I have not had enough students complete the task to give me that information, but it is going to tell you, if I click in here, if I click on my standards, so I have blue. That one is telling me how many students in that group or in that class, and how many of them have 70%. So I have one out of my class, but I have two that have not completed it at least, because I think my class has 3 kids. So if I click on counting numbers, I see one student, 83.3, and they're in blue. That 83.3, if I'm looking at it, I would think, you know what, they only have to get 70. Why isn't that green? Because they haven't completed 10 questions. They have to complete 10. I can see that my student, whatever, has a blue ribbon. And then my last student there hasn't completed it. They haven't logged in. If I go back and I look at my one student here, or my one topic, that's where I can see all of the students that are struggling. So I can tell that I have a couple of students that struggle. I have one student that had 70%. So one thing that I can do from here is I can visually see what's happening. The other thing that I could do is I could reassign this to my students that are struggling from right here. I don't have to create another assignment in Study Island like we just did a little while ago. If you were in that first session, I can come right in here and say, you know what, I want to reassign this to the 2 students. So I'm going to select my 2 students that are struggling, and I'm going to say right here, assign to these students. And then when I do that, I just click on assign, and it's going to show up on there. You have to name it something. So I just copy and paste, but you can create whatever you want. And then you can assign it from here. If I go back to all my topics, because I'm able to go into Sensei. Now, if I wanted to really quick, and I just taught them volume, I can click on that, and I know I haven't assigned it in Study Island, and I can assign it to them from here quickly. I'm going to say assign. I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to put volume. Assign to everybody, and now they're ready to go. I just assigned that to them. It's taking your preferences. When you created your preferences at the beginning, it's going to keep your classroom preferences the same. If you wanted to go in and change those, you would have to go back into your Study Island side and change your preferences. So does that make sense how you can use Sensei to cut out some of that time it takes to create a class and assignment?
What happens when you want to show them, if you have, do we have access to pick out a nonfiction piece and then read it to them on the screen, or read with them and then show them how to answer that?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's what's frustrating, because sometimes I say, how do you do that? I mean, I'd like to just put it on the overhead, like this, and then just show them, okay, this is how you read this, and this is what it looks like, and this is how you should be answering it.
Okay, so let's just do this. What grade level are you?
8.
8th grade?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I assume that's gonna be English.
Uh-huh.
Pick a topic.
Let's see, theme.
Who?
Theme.
Theme. What did I say? Okay, so I'm just gonna show you this real quick. Hold on here. So this is one way that I can do it. This is group session that I was telling you about earlier. Group session, if I wanted to, I can show this up on the board. This will pop out. I can say, okay, let's talk. Let's talk through this. Read that. I can even make this into a printable worksheet. So I can give this to him and I can still work through it on the board. What group session is going to do is give you that ability to work through this with the students. It also gives you the ability that if you had the carts come in that day, that you could say, okay, we're going to work through some of these together, but I want you to answer these, and you're going to get results from what they answer. It turns their device into a clicker.
Okay.
Now, how did you get to group session?
I'm good. Of course, I don't have that on your little cheat sheet. So let me go through it again. But is this something that you're kind of talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me show you.
So they can read it on their device. I can get them to read it on their device too.
Yeah, it's going to show up here. It's going to read on their device.
Okay. I don't have to tell it to do that?
No. Well, you have to set it up, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the part. I
Okay.
don't have to set it
I'm going to show you how.
up. Okay, good. I like that.
All right, so if you do the group session with the kids on whatever the topic is, then you can assign them more practice, and will they be like different questions and different answers?
For group session, we're doing it as a group. Then I could assign theme to them as an assignment, and they're all going to get different questions. Yeah. So, and you could even say, I only want to do three questions. I only want 3 questions to pop up here that we're going to do together. So we'll get in there, and it'll probably make a lot more sense when you start kind of messing around. What a lot of teachers do with group session is they use it as an exit slip. And especially if someone's one-to-one. But if this is something that I have, and I know my carts are going to come in here, and we're going to work on the carts, and I want to do group session, they use it as an exit slip to make sure that their students understand, and then they've assigned their study island topic, saying, okay, this is how you're going to do it, now go do your 10 questions that are assigned to you. What one group of teachers are doing, which we had never designed group sessions to work this way, but that it's working for them, is that they have the printable worksheet. And they do the printable worksheet, and you can even say that you want this to be 20 questions. They do the first 3 or 5 with them in the classroom as a group session, and then they've made the printable worksheet, and that's their homework. The rest of the classes are what they're going home and they're doing for homework. So there's no right or wrong. It's, here's a tool, how can you use it? So let me show you how to do this. Okay. So everybody has a class that they have created, right? Okay. So when you create a group session, you're going to come over here on the left, and you are going to select your topic.
Wait, what did she?
Come back to just your teacher page,
Oh, got it. Yeah, okay.
and you're going to be and I'm in my demo account, so you have your Indiana programs or you have your US programs. So I'm going to go to my 8th grade, and we'll come back down here. I'm going to choose math this time. Now, you also, there's group sessions, but I can also go in here and work through this by clicking on practice mode or game mode, and that's going to pull it up. But we're going to look at group sessions. Okay, is everybody with me?
No.
No.
Never been to that page.
Yeah, because I hit just English language arts, I didn't hit math.
Okay. So I have my 8th grade, and here in the middle, do you have anything that popped up?
Yes, right here, I put English.
Okay, you put English.
And then this is what I got.
Yep, okay, so I have 8th grade English. So here are all of your topics.
Right,
This is how you can view what those questions look like.
okay. I'll do that again.
Okay, so if we go, we'll look at theme. And there you have group session option. Huh? So here's group session and we click next. If you already had one created, you can also go into your saved session. But let's just say we have new and we're going to select next. Then you're going to come in here and it's going to say what classroom do you want this to go to. Select it, then you call this something, because that's what students will see. You can say that you want to have 40 questions. Maybe you only want this to have 3 questions. We're going to go over 3 questions. You have the ability to say however many you want. You can show the question or you can hide the question. If they didn't have a device, this gives you the ability to work with it up on the board still. If they do have a device and you want to show the question on their device, then you would just say show. And then start. If my students are working from a device, I will have to start polling so they have the ability for it to show up on their screen. When I start polling, then all of my students' names will show up underneath there, under the start polling. That's going to be where all of my students in that class. Once they've answered, it's going to show up as a blue dot that they've answered that topic. You have this right up here where it says group session results. You would be able to see quickly with a gold star or an X, who got it right, who got it wrong. I might not want to show this to my students if they're all, if I don't have a split screen or something, but you will always have the ability to pull that report in your report section as well.
Where'd you just pull that up right now?
I clicked up here for group session results.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I haven't used this before, but, so you would pull up your class. So for this part, your group is only the ones who are logging in? Okay, so
Yes.
it still stays the whole thing, but only the ones who you want, so you don't have to actually create a different group every time?
Right.
Just whoever you tell?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So if I had my centers going, I could have my students that were on or above target, doing their own thing that I've either assigned them, an NWA learning path or something like that. I might use this with just my kids that are really struggling, so I can go over this specifically with them and show them and go through it and then assign them either a grade below or, change their differentiation or change their passing score a little bit if you wanted to. So it can be used any way. Over here, you can also show the correct answer. There it is. So if I'm working with my students and maybe they're not logged in and I want them to, on a dry erase board or on a piece of paper, do this on their own, or if we're doing it together, then how many of you got A? And then you can talk about it. There's also an explanation that we can go through. Let me see if I can find. Of course, for whatever reason, there aren't any drag and drop. Let me find
question?
Yes.
We share classes,
Mhm.
but right now, he set everything up, okay,
Mhm.
because there was no need for both of us to do that, because we'd like to share the work and not make more fuss for ourselves.
Absolutely.
But how do I get to be able to view the kids with,
So that's a great question. So a feature that we just have, it's been here for maybe a year. So if I go back into my teacher page, we have something called co-author. You just need to add a teacher to your classroom to have them be co-author.
where does it say co-author on this?
Okay, so I'm going to go into my class manager,
Okay, class.
and I'm going to select my class.
You're gonna say, he has to
He
say.
has to select it. Then you have 3 tabs. Over here on the left where it says class properties, you're going to select that. And then there's a co-author spot. You click on that and you're going to select your teachers. And there's 2 things. You're going to update and then you have to go down to the bottom of your page and save.
Okay, wait a minute, we gotta go back.
Okay.
Okay, we're over here where it says.
Class manager.
Click on class.
Co-author. Co-owners, sorry. And then,
Find me. And. I just make him say, just do it.
just do it.
But see, but if that's that part, then I'll do the
She has
teaching.
2.
I created one.
Okay.
Yeah, just select yourself, so, and then go down, and then save. Now, if you refresh your screen, that should pop up. With this little half circle thing. There it is.
I'm part of you and you're part of me.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And maybe a little bit more
And then I have to.
than what we needed for Steady Island, but, no, good, yay.
It's something we can use.
Okay, so we talked about Sensei. Any questions about Sensei? Do you want to go in and explore that a little bit more? But that is where you can assign content from Sensei. You're going to be able to see the data quickly. You're going to also be able to see student data. I'm going to jump back over there to Sensei really quick just to show you something else. So down here, I have student cards. When your students are logged in, you're going to be able to see what they're doing. It will give you kind of a color coding of green, they're in, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yellow, I think, is that they're logged in, but they're not doing good. Yellow or purple. Let me go to my quick guide. Student cards, here we go. Green's online, yellow online and active, purple online and doing some other Study Island activity, not your program or content, and then gray is that they're offline. When you select a student, you can click on their specific information and you're going to be able to identify what are the 7 topics that they have that are green, what's the one that the student is struggling with, and you can also click on it and assign it to the student again. So you can also assign it to just one student at a time. Do you guys run reports a lot when you're in Steady Island? No?
I mean, sometimes.
What type of data would be helpful? So let's try this. When you use Steady Island, and be honest, what are you doing? Why are you using it? Test prep? Okay.
Or a specific topic that I've taught in the past.
Okay.
Holden Tax use it because the district law.
Okay. All right. So when you did use it, how did you use it?
Well, at first I just had the kids on.
Uh-huh.
because I didn't know what to do.
Sure, absolutely.
And then I figured out how to start this data science.
Okay.
So that was after. Just what I got to figure
Uh-huh. You figure it out, and then I'll figure it out, and
Figure
we'll
it
come
out
together,
together,
we'll
yeah.
figure it out together. Okay, so. I'm thinking. Okay, so you guys have data in there, so let's look at the reports that you have and see if we can come up with a good way to use those reports. So to get back to our study island, let's go over here on the top. If you're in Sensei, just click back on the study island, and that's going to take you back to the study island page. On the left, you should see a school report. These are the reports that you have available. So the class gradebook, that's your typical report that's going to have all of the topics, and that's really what feeds into Sensei. So if I clicked on my class, it's going to ask you, how do you want it to break it down by program, by subject broken down by topic. So select one of those, and then you select your class. And then your program. And then you're going to view the report. So this information, this is what gets filtered back into Sensei. So instead of having to look at this report, the easier way for me is to just go to Sensei, and it's doing everything for me. Now, if there's a report that you like, and you don't want to always go in here and run this report, you can have it emailed to you by clicking on this little email category, this little icon, or this little mail category, and you title it, put in your email, verify it. For this school year, how often do you want this to come to you? So if I close out of that, and let's just say that I want to select a specific student. If I wanted to see a little bit more of what a student's working on and what they've completed, now I clicked on the student name. When I clicked on the student name, then I can see how many sessions they've had in game mode, did they do any in constructive response, how many have they completed in practice mode. If I click on that view subject summary, so if I go into math and I say I want to view the subject summary, then I can see here's the diagnostic test when they completed it for that student. I can scroll on down and I can see what's happening with this particular student. Have you ever had a student who says, I have gone through this topic 500 times and I cannot get to 70? It gets very frustrating for them because it's cumulative. So let's say that I had a student and I said, okay, I know that you're really struggling. Let's view your sessions. So when I'm here, I can click on view sessions. And I can remove, if I put check marks in there, I can remove that session. So if I have a student that has multiple sessions, I can remove sessions and it's going to change their percentage. So I could either say I want to remove all of them and have them start over again, or I could say I'm just going to remove the ones and that's going to give you 70% for a blue ribbon. It's whatever you want to do. Does that make sense why we might do that? Because it's cumulative. if I get a 0 that very first time, it's gonna be very difficult for me to get that 70% to get the blue ribbon.
That's when you just assign a little grade level.
You could, yep.
Just to help, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, you could definitely do that. But we're gonna want to hopefully get them to that grade level sometime. So if they do go back in there, then that might be a time when you would want to remove those sessions and say, okay, we've gone a grade lower, you've done the building blocks, now let's see what you can do going in fresh. The building blocks are, if a student doesn't do well on the topic, then it bumps them back that skill set. And it will then they have to get 70% in that skill set
Okay.
before they can even go back into the grade level topic that they were working on.
Gotcha.
So it's that already intervention piece put in.
Is that for everything?
Mhm. Yep. Yep. So if you see that, let me see if I can find one.
Because I use it for my AP students too, to get curriculum.
Yeah, it'll do that for AP as well. Do you go into the US programs and
Yeah.
you have those AP?
Exactly. So we're now covering this topics in class.
Yep,
It's practice.
yep, absolutely. You can go in and you can view all of your blue ribbon reports. You're going to be able to go in and see the class summary. Evidently, that's not a good one. Hold on here. My data is hard to find because I don't know what I have within. The trend report. If you run that, not the trend report, if you run the suggested topics report, that is such a great report because when you start having your students go through, it's going to categorize what you need to go back in. It's going to say your high priority student. You know, this is a high priority topic. This is a medium priority. This is what everybody's mastered. This is a topic that you don't need to go back through. So let me see if I can find this one. So this is just an example of what that's going to look like. So when it says topics that need improvement, high priority, it's going to break down what I've already completed and what they've already completed in the classroom. It tells you if the sample size is pretty good, how many is correct. If I click here on the paper looking icon, it takes me back to my individual students, so I can see what students are really struggling with that. Well, here I have 2 students that haven't even completed it, so I know I need to get on them to tell them that they need to complete it. Here that it is at the medium priority. Here's some that have not been that have already been exceeded, so I know as a class, I don't need to work with this with my students. So the reports are there to give you data based on what they have completed. It's that formative assessment tool. You teach them, you assign, have them go in, and then look at that data to identify who is understanding, who needs more work on specific topics.
Well, how do you, I see what how do you get to the individuals?
So if we wanted to, from here,
Yeah.
I could click on this little icon,
Right.
and then I could get to my individual students.
Oh.
So that's one way. And then here it is. And then you can see their sessions, and you can see, okay, here's one that they're struggling on. You can see their session, and then this is gonna tell you, here's practice mode, 10 questions, how many they did. So you, this is what I was saying, you can you can say, you know what, let's start over and do all their sessions.
All right,
So there's a lot of different ways that you can get to that
okay.
individual summary report. From here, you can even say, okay, let's compare it with other students. That's going to be from everybody in your
Right.
American Elementary and then all Indiana users. From here, I want to see if I can pull this up. So my whatever student, I can go into my whatever student, and this is where I can go in and I can see how that student's doing compared to other Indiana users, to other students in my school. So blue is my student, red is my school, green is comparing them to all Indiana users. So any questions about reports? That's just where I want you to know that that's where you can get to your reports, look at those reports once you start getting that data coming in to help you make those informed decisions. Okay, we had talked about how do I create a writing assignment. That is something we wanted to talk about, right? Is that something? Okay, so we're going to do that really quick here. So let's jump back to our teacher page. Is everybody with me? Okay, I'm feeling like lunch should be coming around the corner here. I think we're tired. Okay, so we have our teacher page. I am going to create a writing assignment. So one way that I can do that is over here on the left-hand side, I can go to my assignments and I'm going to create a writing assignment. I can select my class from here. And then submit. So from here, this is where you're going to create your assignment title. You're going to go through, here's all this fun stuff, but the nice thing is that you can choose it from a graphic organizer. If I wanted to have the cause and effect, I can view what that's going to look like. This is going to be what the students would see. The only thing is that students cannot type on this on the computer. You might want to print that out for them, but this is where they would be able to see it. If you wanted to have spell check turned on, you can turn it on right here. There's also the rubric, I-step rubrics in there. Whatever the rubric's going to be that Indiana comes up with will also be in there. So the next thing that we're going to do is once we have all of that information in there, we're going to say we want to go into our writing prompts. And I can select. If I wanted to create my own writing prompt, I can do it from right here. I can select narrative, persuasive, there's math and science down below, so there's a lot that you can do. When I select the writing prompt type, then I will be able to select the writing prompt.
Yes.
Is everybody there? There you go.
Can I just say though, that this isn't the kind of writing they're doing on iStep anymore?
We're going to switch it to what
Okay.
they're going to have to do.
So you'll have text and then, and do you know when that switch will happen?
I know that we are, our benchmarks are there. I was told it's going to happen by the beginning of next school year, this coming school year.
Okay.
So hopefully in August.
Great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this.
And it will certainly give them practice writing an essay on the computer, then that's all good. But it's just stuff there.
What are they
They have a piece of text that they have to read,
Yeah.
then there's 2 multiple choice questions they have to read, and then they have to have read and understood the text before they can write, they can answer.
Yes.
It's usually 2 texts.
We are.
Two stories.
That's, so right now, I think we have about 9, like I said, 9 or so different types of questions within the bank of questions that they can have. That's gonna be one of them that's coming. I know we're bringing in a video, something that they have to watch, and then there's text, and then they write about. So we're trying to incorporate everything that they could possibly
No, I
see.
didn't have video this year. Did you guys have video? 8th grade have video this year? That'll be interesting.
Yes.
Video is part of the media?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Now, so I don't know, is that part of the writing portion, or is that just part of the question types that are put into the new test?
Well,
No, that's not what
we've
I-
seen more of 2 readings with comparing or contrasting or having to do with both of the readings. We've never really seen too much of that, but there was more and more of that this year. The kids kept telling me, you know, God, I had two of these things that I had to read again. But I said, how can you compare it to Study Island? They said pretty much the same. Not the
Okay.
writing portion, but
Right.
the reading portion is pretty much
Yep.
what, what they've already done on Study Island.
Yes.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah. So we're getting those new question types coming in. I'm pretty sure those are gonna be, we're gonna have a summer release coming either late July or early August. And if it's not by then I know that we're gonna get those release
That's
types
exciting.
out August, September. Yep. But then, when you go through, you select your writing prompt, you go through that way.
And I like how
students-
they have all those choices so you could choose from. That's nice.
Yep. And then the other way that you could create something is, if I come back, let me back up here a little bit, and I said that I wanted to create a build a test. And you put in the test name, but I'm just going to go right into the questions just because I want to show you what that's going to look like. Come down here to 8th grade math. From here, I get to go in, and this is where I select my questions. On the left, I can see there's 5 types that I can choose from. There's sequencing, multiple response, multiple choice, matched pair, constructed response. I select the questions that I like, save, go into my next topic. So this is, you are going in, selecting those questions. Here's one with 8 that are available. Multiple choice, matched pair, hotspot, graphic gap match, fill in the blank, constructed, close. So you can really go in there and start working with your students. You know, either selecting the type of questions or the topics. Okay, just a couple other things. So we talked about Sensei, reports, writing, the writing prompts, build a test, kind of things. Didn't go into too much detail on them, but kind of so you know where they are. I want to show you over here on the left, teacher toolkit. On the teacher toolkit, this is where you can search for lesson plans. You can search for animation. Have any of you been in there before?
That's what's interesting.
Yep. So if I go into lesson plans, dividing and whole, see if I can pull that up here. Here it is. There's a video lesson plan, example chart paper. Anything that is in that lesson gonna give me whole class instruction. It will tell me advanced learner options, struggling learner options.
All right, perfect.
Anything that is in the lesson plan that I would need to create is already created. Here it is for independent practice. So I wanted you to know that that was there, available for you. Khan Academy videos are in there, project-based learning. The last thing is that all of our support and contact information are up here. Help, life support. You can start chat now if you didn't want to talk to anybody. If you chat now, you can. I would go in and they respond really quickly. They love it when I do that on site. Just showing how quick you are. If I click on help, this is going to be the how-to. Go in there for teachers. You're going to see your whole, here's all the teacher toolkit, teacher manual. Download the manual so you can see it. Okay, let me come back up here. Okay. Did we learn anything in Study Island today?
Yes.
Okay. That was, I feel really bad for everybody that's getting it thrown at them. Hopefully something sticks. If you want to, you can complete a survey of today's session. You just learned like 3 hours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our session is over. It's time for lunch. Please head down to the cafeteria. We'll have lunch from 12 to 12:30, and all of our afternoon sessions will stay the same. So that first afternoon session will start at 12:40. Enjoy lunch. Please visit the vendor tables in the hallway between the cafeteria and the auditorium.
Well, thank you, Jackie.
You are welcome. If you need a certificate to say that you were here, or if you need certificates for PD, or whatever, you'll get a certificate after you do the survey. You can say you were here for like 6 hours. They'll never know. Just make sure you put something good in there for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Good, Matt. Man, he's really hungry. Yes,
Is this the same session number?
it is. The exact same session number.
I do. Is it a?
I'll have somebody
Change. Like, installation.
Okay, thank you.
Just ask.
No, that's gonna have to be.
I'm kind of curious myself to know what happened, so I'll probably ask her later
I mean, they
too.
can.
Because it's all school city of Hammond. It's all their school city of Hammond username and password that they use for Google Classroom, email, it's all the same.
At point that his thing says his password money. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
They can't go in and change.
But it
their
seems like
password.
there's,
So it
like, some
would be-
people have 2 logins for whatever reason, like, those
Yeah.
that started earlier, and then they gave everybody, so it's
Yeah,
like, I think there's some people have 2 accounts,
Yeah,
and, that needs to be streamlined as well.
I think it will
It
be.
probably will be.
and that was
Yeah.
from the district, that was because of the district.
No one else looking at.
Yeah, because I did that, I just had to take all the tests and all that stuff all over.
Right, and then the,
Automatically.
So it wasn't just you.
no,
And I can send them
Thank you.
weekly things showing what they've done. Okay. But, like I said, they're upside. So, would I have to set that up for science as well? Because the focus is definitely to be math, but mode, measurement, all that can fall into science. And then when I write the lesson plan, I standard in with my thing, so it's double check.
Yep. Awesome.
The principal is the one I've already started doing this. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Because their thing is, they don't take the 7th grade science. They